Collectathons were already waning by the time I was playing video games, but as a small child I wasn't exactly on the cutting edge of gaming, so I grew up with them. Mostly Spyro and Mario, but I'm sure there were a few others. And in recent years we've seen an attempt to revive the genre with entries like A Hat in Time and Yooka-Laylee. But despite being received well and alright, the revival doesn't seem to have stuck, which is unfortunate. For the most part, I like the genre. The titles tend to have colorful and imaginatively designed worlds which are a joy to traverse. So, what happened? Hello world, my name is Atticus, and welcome to The Experiment. For those not familiar with the genre, a collectathon has a simple goal. Collect all the things. In Spyro, you're collecting dragons, eggs, and gems. In Mario 64, you're collecting stars. A lot of games have you collect things. The Assassin's Creed titles have a number of collectibles to populate the world. Breath of the Wild has shrines and Korok seeds, but the goal of those games is not to collect those things. It is to progress the story, beat the big bad. There's a big bad in both Spyro and the Mario titles, but you can't fight them until you get enough of the collectibles, unlike in the other two where you can beat the game without touching a single collectible. There's a bit of an oddity there, right? The core concept of a collectathon is just a piece of other games, something to, at worst, fill time. This is, in my opinion, a big part of the answer to our question. But before we get into that, let's talk about art. Georges Seurat is known for a number of things. He's the pioneer of pointillism, a neo-impressionist technique where instead of painting with brush strokes, you paint by filling a canvas with tiny dots. This painting is perhaps the most famous example, and for good reason. It took Seurat 2 years and is composed of millions of dots within its 7 by 10 foot frame. That is such a massive undertaking. But as wildly impressive as his pointillist works are, Seurat is also known for something else, being an artist's artist. Seurat was incredibly scientifically minded to the point where he didn't use the term pointillism, but rather chromoluminarism, after the way the use of dots focused on light and color. Other than color and light, texture was another thing that fascinated Seurat. A lot of his early work consists of black and white drawings done with a Conte crayon and Michelet paper, a handcrafted brand that typically had irregularity. I've seen some of these drawings, and to me, they look like an elementary school art project, where you hold a piece of paper up to a wall or something and color with a crayon to study texture. Even things that seem simple now were once discoveries though, so while these drawings, to me, don't seem all that impressive, I can understand why they might have been when they were made. Texture is, after all, one of the elements and principles of design. A thorough examination of an element and/or principle of design paves the way for future artists to skillfully implement in their own work. With this and other scientific-ish studies into light and color, Seurat became an artist's artist. The earliest three-dimensional game I could find was 1973's Maze War, a title which might also be the first first-person shooter, and one that utilized vector graphics, which I want to do a whole video about different graphical representations because I think they're neat, so we'll save that for later. Maze War exists in a three-dimensional world with three-dimensional assets, but the players, yes, plural because the game was also multiplayer, doing entirely too much, the players only have control over 2 axes of movement and a fixed camera. While technically three-dimensional, it acted more like a two-dimensional game, making it one of those lovely 2.5-dimensional ones. The first game that really let players and developers explore the third dimension was Mario 64, with its pseudo-free-moving camera controlled by a voyeuristic Lakitu, reveling in every moment of Mario's pain and anguish. With a whole new dimension of movement to consider, developers had much more to worry about with level design, and players had to learn how to exist in that extra dimension. So it's not terribly surprising that early games in this era were about moving around a world, with the collectibles there to serve as a reward. Games today tend to be about a bit more than just traversing a three-dimensional space, but that is usually still a core part of it. There's a story about an early tech demo of Breath of the Wild being played by Miyamoto, who spent an hour just climbing trees. Because if that much is fun for that long, you know you've got a good game on your hands. Movement is the main action in most games, regardless of everything else going on. You still have to be able to get from point A to point B. And while bland movement might slide under the radar, it's definitely noticeable when movement itself feels good, and a game is always better for it. Both players and developers needed collectathons when transitioning to three-dimensional worlds, simple games which served as a study into movement. But both quickly grew past that, and in just a single console generation, collectathons came and went. I think there's still space for collectathons today. Mario Odyssey, A Hat in Time, and to a lesser extent, Yooka-Laylee all did pretty well. But unless they're innovating in some way, like Odyssey's hat allowing you to take over enemies, or just pushing boundaries to their fullest extent, like Odyssey's over 900 moons to collect, they'll still seem elementary to the modern player. Ultimately, I have enough nostalgia to fund more collectathons. Please do a Spyro 4, A Hat in Time 2, Super Mario Sunshine 2, Gex! Collectathons have, for better or worse, seen their time in the sun. As much as some of us may like to play more titles from the genre, both players and developers have grown past them. I've been Atticus, and thank you for participating.